Welcome, everyone, to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. You can find the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast on emmettmuckles.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and please go there and leave me a couple of stars to let me know how you feel about the podcast so that we can promote all these good things that we are producing to the world, because your opinion counts. Remember, go to iTunes or Stitcher, leave some stars, or just go to emmettmuckles.com for the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I have an awesome guest who's going to get your mind, body, and spirit together, and he is Rocky Detwiler, who went from millions to the treehouse and then back again, which means life is not in one place. You can always change. You can make that conscious change. Hey, Rocky, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle.
Thanks, Emmett. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Now, you have an interesting story, and it encompasses so many things that are in our society today that most people don't even talk about. You know, you went through some severe things. You went some severe things with people who were close to you, some things physically, spiritually, mentally. You just went through a journey through the abyss and you came back. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, be happy to. Yeah, so it actually began with a dream that I had when I was a young teenager to retire early, and that was retire on the interest of my principal of an investment. And so, in my 30s, I accomplished that goal and semi-retired. And I invested my money with someone I trusted explicitly, and one of my closest friends I knew for 18 years. And it actually, that investment actually was one of, I got notified by the ACC. I got a phone call from an investigating attorney who said that it became one of Arizona's largest Ponzi schemes. So I got a phone call. I had become a victim of that Ponzi scheme run by one of my closest friends. So it sent me in a downhill, battle, and I ended up losing everything: home, land, possessions. Ended up fat, obviously overweight, and desperate. Just depression set in, and I was at times suicidal, and it got to a really bad place in late 2000, in actually early 2009, excuse me. And how do I end all the pain? And so I, looking in the mirror that one night, just deciding, how do I end it? And but there was an anchor that held, and I just thank God he was in my life. I wouldn't be alive today. I wouldn't share the story with you. And it didn't stop there. The pain didn't just go away. I had to really start making some changes in my life. I was thinking negative, destructive thoughts, and my life was going in that direction, Emmett. So that's why I ended up in the place that I was. When you start thinking negative thoughts and you're not thinking positive, you're not speaking positive, you're not reading positive, you're not around positive people, then your life will go in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. And so my dominant thoughts were obviously not very positive.
You talk about having an anchor. And what is that anchor that keeps you deeply rooted? Like your whole mantra is the Samson effect, and Samson had to be rooted to move those pillars. What is your anchor?
Yeah, well, so if you're asking me, I'm a believer, so I'm a Christian, and I believe that God is my number one source as not only strength but guidance and leadership and counsel. And when I'm weak, He's strong. And so if He wasn't in my life, I would not be alive today. So I give all the credit where credit is due. A lot of the times when I do shows, either radio or TV, you have to be cautious what I say, but I always plant that seed that I thank God He was in my life or I wouldn't be alive today. But if someone asks me like you, then I'll absolutely say that it was God. Thank Jesus. Thank you, Lord, He was in my life. If I didn't have a relationship with Him, there's no way I'd be alive. So that's where that anchor held. When I was at my darkest moment, it's just like it's that anchor. It's like a ship, and the reason I use an anchor is it's like a ship that's kind of, that's tossed to and fro, but a ship that's anchored, it's not going to move all around. It's going to be stabilized. It's like, very similar to the lighthouse on the hill. It's the guiding post. It's your North Star, and that's what really what He is for me. And it still didn't mean that I didn't go through difficult times, because I did. very difficult. I mean, I was, there were some mean things, very angry things that were said about me because of the situation I was in as a victim. And it just was a really tough time. I lost my self-confidence, my self-image, and I just didn't think life was worth living, man. I lost everything.
Well, let's
I
go.
went from everything to nothing.
Let's go back a little bit, because you say you had that material life, you had those possessions, but sometimes, excuse me, we have those possessions, but we don't really appreciate them. We don't know how. We don't have the maturity to actually understand what we have in our life. So, give me a picture of what your life was before you hit that bottom, so that we can understand how you got to this point.
So, I had a motorhome and four-wheelers and a snowmobile trailer with snowmobiles. And wintertime, I'd have snowmobiles, of course. In summertime, I'd put the four-wheelers and the motorcycles in the trailer, and I, had it all ready to go. So when I went to the sand dunes, or, I went up north, so I'd be the northwest part of the country. So Washington, Oregon, Idaho, I could travel around. I had enough money coming in where I could kind of do what I wanted to do and go where I wanted to go. And I could have, lived in a mansion, massive home. I decided not to. I was in a very nice, very comfortable home, and I was able to travel and give really nice gifts. My family, got motorcycles and four-wheelers and trips, and I just chose to do very nice things with my money. I gave them missions. I've always believed in that, so I've always been a very big giver. I think that money makes you more of what you are. So if you're a giver, you're going to be more of a giver when you have it. And if you're not, you're going to be more greedy. You're going to be, money and power is going to control you. And I did not want it to control me. So I wanted it to, my goal was to achieve financial independence so I could do those fun things and go to the places I want to go to. But to be honest with you, I look back at it now, my life's completely different. I have a mission now. I have actually a very, very big mission, where back then I didn't have a mission. My goal, and I achieved that goal, was to basically retire early. And I had that. I had, 4 or 5 motorcycles for buddies and snowmobiles for buddies. And it wasn't just about me. It was about other people that I could enjoy that time freedom with. Yeah. And nice cars. And a friend would come into town. They could drive my Lexus, or they could drive the Mercedes. So it wasn't, that's just how I'm wired, right? If you came to town and you're going to hang with me, then, hey, ride the bike like I ride the bike. And I ride the bike pretty crazy, dude. Like, yeah. I don't want you to have to treat it like, I want you to treat it like you stole it, right?
Ride it like you stole it.
That was my mindset. What's that?
You said ride it like you stole it. I like that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Listen, I don't want you to have to tenderly ride my motorcycle when I know that I'm going to get on it, right? I mean, and so that was always a condition that I had. Obviously, I have friends, and if they're going to break it, I get that, right? The tables have been turned. I've been on the other side.
So you basically lived a life just as the Bible says, treat others as you want to be treated. Yeah, absolutely. You bet. Absolutely. I was as big a giver as I could possibly be at the time. And wherever I found a need, I wanted to make sure that I could supply that need. If it was financially, if it was something I could give, places that I could go. I've been overseas, on mission trips and buying dinners. And, sometimes it's just the small things that you can do for someone that they can't do for themselves. And, listen, I've been around a lot of wealthy people. And I always said, I never wanted to be like that, where they had the arrogance and they were. Maybe you've seen those before. I saw that, and I did not want to be that. So, I never want to be to a place where I. Let me interject here.
Go ahead.
There's a scripture that says it's easier for a rich man to go. Wait a minute. Let me get this right. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter heaven, because he doesn't want to give away. He doesn't want to have to depart with those things. That's his power.
Right.
But you've been tested, my man, and you've had it, and then you lost it, and then you knew what to do with it, and you still maintain your spirit about you. And what happened to you? Describe to me that moment where you were at your absolute low, and how it came to fruition that you said, I must make a change.
Yeah, great question. So it was dark. late January evening. I was in the state of Washington, living in a foreclosed home as a squatter. So I was there illegally. It was actually my friend's place. He moved out because the home fell into foreclosure. I had no place to go, so I became homeless. I ended up staying in this home, and it was one of those nights where, what happens when you get sad, you get sadder, and then depression sets in, and then ultimately, depending on how dark your life really gets, you fall into suicide, and these are things that there's a progression to all that. That's what happened with me. And it was just one of those nights where I remember walking into the master bedroom, and there's a mirror in there, and I looked in the mirror, and I'm crying, and I'm crying because I'm like, what happened? I had it all, and now I got nothing. Now I'm homeless, and I'm fat, and I have, and I just, what a mess. I mean, I just, no confidence. I couldn't even look at the guy in the mirror. And it was just one of those sad moments where I got so low that I didn't even like the guy in the mirror. I was just like, what a pathetic loser. And, forcing myself to look at that character. And I did, and I'm just crying. And I remember that I was at that decision point. I was at the crossroads. Do I live or do I die? And I knew what that meant. And so that's where I say the anchor held, is because I decided, I'm going to live. And I wasn't thinking big, like, wow, I'm going to go change somebody's life. Like, I'm going to reach millions of people. No, man, I wasn't there. I didn't have enough confidence for myself, let alone thinking about other people. So I just said, I'm going to start with something small. I'm going to start with my physical life. If I can just get that on track, maybe somehow down the road, because the tunnel is so dark, right? There's no end in sight. The bills have piled up. I've lost everything. My home's my land, my dream. I had no more dreams at this point, and that's a sad place to be when you don't have any dreams and you have no goals. So I started small, Emmett. All I wanted to do was just focus on my fitness. And so I went in the other room and I wrote a contract to myself. And so that's where it started. So that was, I don't know if I did enough.
Wait. Let's backtrack a little bit. You wrote a contract with yourself. Let's talk about that. So the contract, you knew exactly where you were. And how did the contract develop? Was this like a contract that said, I am here now, I will not be here any further? Help paint that picture for me.
I knew that I had broke enough promises to myself, okay? It's those people that you meet in life, right? And they tell you they're going to be there, and they don't show up. It's the guy that's going to, hey, I'm going to try and show up, and they don't show up. I'm going to make it, and they don't make it. They make promises and don't keep them, right? The world's filled with people like that. And there was a point in my life where I was in this down place, and I was depressed, and I've done my best to keep my promises. But you know who I break them most to? Me. I break them to me. Like, I wanted to stop eating, and I didn't. I wanted to do this, and I didn't. And so I was breaking promises to me. And I could keep them for other people, and I could show up on time for other people. But for me, I wasn't so good at that. I was lying to myself. So I thought, I need to do this, and I have to commit this to myself. So I literally went in the other room, and I made up my own contract. And it wasn't like, you're a loser, you're fat, and you're so stupid. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, I'm going to, and then I said what I was going to do. And it was just only a couple of paragraphs, and it was about fitness, and it was about eating right, and it was being committed to that portion that, if you will, pillar of my life. I believe there's 3 pillars. That was one pillar of my life that I wanted to get right. And so I felt like I needed to write a contract. Listen, this was serious, man. This was like a life and death situation for me. This wasn't like just some contract that you break with somebody and they take your car back. This was about my life. And so that's the only thing I knew that I could sign, like me, that I could, honor it, if you will. So that was my own honoring my contract to me. So that's what I did. I wrote this contract that I was going to keep my fitness and my health and nutrition And I wrote it out and I signed it.
You know what? This is really awesome that what you said, because you wrote a contract. Now, follow me with this. You brought words to life. Words are so important, and
Yeah.
I've heard you say this yourself in your videos and in your presentation. I am the same way, because when I speak the words, they become physical. They become a matter. They're not just trapped inside my spirit, body, soul. But you went even further. And this is a good practice for people to adhere to. Not only are the words that you speak powerful, the words that you write are just as powerful as well. Now, once you made that commitment, and I know the journey doesn't just jump overnight and you don't see instant gains, because that's what most people's problem are. They don't see those instant gains, so they get discouraged. What was your journey on that step by step that said, okay, I'm making progress?
First of all, these are awesome questions, I meant. Listen, we live in a land of instant gratification, right? You want your food cooked now. If it's not done in 5 minutes, there's a problem, right? You want your clothes clean tomorrow. You can get them clean tomorrow. You want to get a new pair of shoes, new jacket, new shirt. I mean, whatever you want, you can almost get it in a day, right? You can get it quick, fast. We got to have it now. We're that society where we're so impatient that if success doesn't come to you super quickly, man, what's wrong? And so, for me, I wasn't looking to conquer the world. I was looking for my life. And so I realized that this was going to be a process, and that it was, maybe I wanted to make it fun, because I'm a pretty fun guy. I get intense about intense conversations, but when you know me, I'm a pretty fun guy, and this was pretty serious for me. And so I wrote that contract because that was important, and I started keeping my promises to myself. So here's what I teach and train people now, right? Is it starts with something small. Start with the smallest thing you can think about and keep that promise to yourself and commit to that. Once you commit to that, and you've attained and you've achieved that, then you move on to the next thing and you accomplish that. And then it's kind of like walking up a ladder, right? Step by step by step. The same thing in your life. So I wanted to conquer one thing, and that was my fitness. But that's the process. When we teach on relationship stuff, we can see results pretty quickly with people. When we teach on fitness stuff, they don't happen so fast. In fact, right, you throw out the Fruity Pebbles and the donuts and, the ice cream, and you replace that with good lean meats and vegetables and rice and all that. That's not so fun. I mean, you got to really make a mind shift here and start eating good, and then exercise. And if you haven't exercised, well, that's a treat for you. And then, you got to start, and then you got to go to the gym probably and work out. Well, then you come home in pain. So, I mean, it almost counteracts what you're attempting to do. So it's a trip. You got to really know what you're doing, and you have to really not necessarily know what you're doing, but you have to know what the goal is, right? I can't go, well, I want to achieve the goal that is on the mirror, and it's the guy with abdominal veins, and I'm 50 pounds overweight. That's not going to happen overnight, boss. It's going to take you some time. It took time to put that fat on, and so you got to take it off. So I'm talking to myself, by the way, when I say that, because I was the fat guy, I was the fat guy with the abdominal veins guy on my mirror. And so I speak from experience.
We
That's
all...
so fun sharing that story, yeah.
Yeah,
and that's true. I became the guy.
I believe it. I believe
with the abdominal veins.
I believe it, absolutely. We're coming up on that time of the year where many people make these resolutions. Speaking of the promises that we all tend to break, because we don't see the immediate gratification. You can go to any fitness gym in America for the month of January and partial of February. It will be packed. After February, by the time that your tax returns are here, it is empty again. That's because people have let that thing go, whether it be quit smoking, lose 15 pounds, is because the process is slow. Now, you've probably chronicled all your stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the Samson effects.
Yes.
So,
okay, love it. So the Samson effect really, it's an effect. So it's something that takes place. This is This is real as gravity. So you get up on top of your desk and you jump off and you're going to land on the floor. Okay? Well, the same thing happens with the Samson effect. Here's how it works. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. And your habits become what I call your lifestyle, how you live your life. Now, philosophers, Buddha and Gandhi and Emerson and, some of the greatest that have walked the face of the earth have said the same thing, but they've said it in a different way. It becomes your character, becomes your destiny, etc. I believe that it becomes your life and how you live your lifestyle. So we wrote a book about that, and I used my life story. I used examples, life experiences on me applying the Samson effect in my life, and then how I ended up creating the lifestyle, how I ended up thinking about it, speaking about it, the actions took place, the habits were created, and then my lifestyle happened. I mean, I helped people become millionaires. I was able to achieve a very nice lifestyle in life, and now my entire life is completely different. I lived in a treehouse for a year. I didn't share that story, but I ended up living in an Idaho treehouse for an entire year. I mean, with no insulation, and so I was homeless. But we overcame some tough stuff, and then I started speaking differently. And those actions started to take place, and it started to create the habits in my life. So I went from a fat guy to a bodybuilding champion. I went from an alone, very alone, like I was alone kind of guy. Like I couldn't cry harder for being alone than if I would have lost a family member. What I mean by that, it was like I'd have these monumental days. I'd come home alone, and I just was like, well, why am I so alone? I didn't like being alone, and so I had to do something about that. So I wrote down what I was looking for in my life. So I wrote down what I wanted my future mate to look like. I wrote down details, Emmett, of exactly what I wanted in her. And then nobody knows those, by the way, even till today. And then I started speaking about her. I started praying for her. I started believing for her. That's what I started doing. Like on a daily basis, I'd be driving down the road and just thinking about her. Now, I haven't met her. I don't know who she is. This is 5 years ago. This is 6 years ago I started doing this. And so 5 years later, guess what? She shows up. She shows up in my life. And then she transforms with me saying nothing into the very woman that I wanted. Like amazing supernatural stuff happened. And you got to get the book and read it, okay? Because I don't have the time to go on this show and tell you all that happened. But we're talking about a real effect. This happened. This happened in my life. I was at the life's almost worst case scenario, and fat and suicidal, to a bodybuilding champion. How does that happen? Well, there's an effect. It's a process. I did that with my physical life. I did that with my relationships, and I've done it with my finances. So I've done it all three pillars of life. And now I coach and train people around the world to do that same thing in their life. They can have it too.
Hey, buddy.
You got to go through the process of making it happen.
Let me ask you a question here. You have to excuse me because I'm dealing with a cold here. My body freaks out once a year and resets.
Yeah, no problem.
But you do some work with some teenage children around Utah.
Sure do.
Tell me about that.
I do. Yeah, Idaho. But
Idaho.
Okay.
Idaho. I thought it was Utah.
No. Yeah, I live in Idaho, Boise, Idaho, Meridian, Idaho. So we, the Samson effect is the effect. So we also have what's called Samson Wear. It's an apparel line. But then we created about 2.5 years ago the Samson Life Challenge, which is a leadership program, a life and leadership program. And we had, a handful of people that went through it, about 70 people. And when they ended up going through this challenge, it ended up transforming their life. We had suicidal teens that started applying what I'm telling you about. They started journaling how we teach them how. And it took suicide, depressed teenagers and turned them into leaders where they're inspiring other kids. And go online. Listen, you don't have to take my word for it. They're on video. You can go see them yourself. But, I mean, that's what happened when they started applying small, simple little tasks every day that became habits, and they started transforming their lives. Well, now we have that with what's called the MIAC Group, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council here in Meridian, Idaho, which is the largest youth council in the United States. And I introduced this to 10 teens. And I said, here's all I want you to do. There's 3 things I want you to do. In fact, if you're online, you can do these same things. Is I want you to, in the morning, just be quiet for 5 minutes. Just sit there with no electronics, and all you're going to do is listen to your heartbeat. You're going to listen to your breathing. That's it for 5 minutes. The next thing, I want you to journal. I want you to get out a journal. You go online, find our journal, which is the Samson journal, okay, a gratitude journal. And you're going to write the date, write 3 things you're grateful for today, and then just write a couple sentences on something that you did today you could remember a year from today. The third thing is I want you to reach out to another person. So 1 out of these 3 things are about someone else, okay? So the third thing is you're going to find someone in your life that you love and you care about and text them today or reach out to them. If you're a teenager and you're in school, or you're a kid and you're in school, I want you to find that kid that nobody says hi to. The kid that's been bullied, right? Someone that sits alone, and just go say hi to him. And you'll just watch the results. And these videos are online. You can go see what we did. We took these teens. They went through the 3 steps in 3 days. In 3 days, Emmett, they came out. This is on a Monday. They showed up on Friday because I was speaking at this big summit event for all these teenagers, and they came up on stage and shared what happened. And oh my goodness, it was amazing. So anyways, I get excited about this because this is real life transformational stuff. And in Idaho, we're like 7th or 9th on the list for suicides in the country. That's pretty high, man.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
And it's cold there, too.
Lives. Yeah, man, it's cold. Yes, you're right, it is. It's going to get colder.
So you and I are similar in the age range. So one of the things that I had to figure out, and my doctor recommended this to me a couple of years ago, was that vitamin D is so important in the human life, and many of us, because we don't roam around exposed to the sun like we once did, we don't have enough vitamin D. Now, this is just a little tidbit from Emmett. I used to suffer from that winter depression. It was horrible from about December till about March. What I found out was vitamin D is the key. If you don't have enough vitamin D, your mood is just all kinds of crazy. So I know what you're talking about, and I've had friends, and I've been advising everyone to go get their blood levels checked, go get their mineral levels checked, because that can have some negative effects on you. Also, since I'm talking to you, exercise, because what you've said is that your change in thought and your change in how you apply life to your body, which means exercise, has changed you immensely. Do you have any advice? Do you have any programs that you're doing with the Samson Life to help people with that?
Oh, my goodness, absolutely. In fact, for everybody listening, I want you to go to Rocky Detwiler, DETWILER.com, and download our free 5 steps to fit and healthy. It's a very unique, innovative look at being fit and healthy using the power of words and fitness, of course. But I come at it as an expert in the power of words to actually, transform your life. And so I'm a specialist in this, and we put this together. And I want you to have it. It's 26 pages. It's an ebook. It's free. It's our gift to you. So to answer your question, yes, Emmett, go get that ebook. That way you can learn more about fit and healthy, not just emotionally and mentally, but also physically. And then we have what's called the Samson Life Challenge. It's a kind of a corporate wellness life skills leadership program. So we've had it with companies. We've had it with schools. I just spoke to a bunch of fifth graders yesterday. It was so much fun. They're a little bit young for our challenge, but companies can access this. And you're going to get a really good bird's eye view of what it is that we do, with that free download. And you can go to Samson.life and see it there. And also the Samson Effect, we're going to be doing some specials here really soon, but you can find that on Amazon also, Emmett. But we have access to this. I'm easy to find, Samson.life and then RockyDetwiler.com as well. So absolutely, I want them to go get that for free.
Can you give me each one of you? I want people to be + to find you wherever you are. So can you give me all the places
absolutely.
Online, including your websites, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, whatever you have? Give it up, buddy.
Okay, well, you can just Google me and you can find me, but it's Rocky, ROCKY, Detwiler, DETWILER.com. That's one site. The other site is Samson, SAMSON.life. That's another site. And the third one is Samson, SAMSON, Effect, EFFECT.com. So the SamsonEffect.com. Those are my three sites. You can find us on Amazon, the Samson Effect. You can also get the Gratitude Journal there. And, of course, at Rocky Detwiler, you can get our 5 Steps to Fit and Healthy for free, the ebook. That's where you can find me. You can Google me. I'm on Facebook. Just Robert Rocky Detwiler. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Listen, I'm on social media. I'm not hard to find. I'm very vocal about, my story and how I can help other people.
That's awesome. So I do my own little 30 for 30 right here. So we're at the 30-minute mark. And
yeah,
here's some things. Guys, this guy has been through it, so let him be your inspiration. That when you think you're down and that there's nothing left for you, all you have to do is one simple thing. If you're hanging on a rope of life and you have just a smidget of rope, there's one thing that you can do. Tie a knot in that rope and keep hanging, because eventually you'll get the strength to pull yourself up. Thank you, Rocky, for being on the podcast. That's Rocky Detwiler and the Samson Life. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Emmett. I appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.